Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is KTN Prime, of course, and now we are moving on to the discussion tonight about ODM Wrangles. ODM Party's Central Management Committee, CMC, has given party leader Oburu Oginga the go-ahead to officially start negotiations with President William Ruto's UDA party ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, this emerged today following a CMC party meeting led by the party leader Oburu Oginga that took place in Kilifi, where the party secretary Edwin Sifuna and Senators Godfrey Osotsi and Ledama Ariko, among other senior party figures, were conspicuously absent, of course, raising the eyebrow on the various issues that are happening within the party. And that's our discussion tonight. We want to make sense of what is happening in the ODM party. Gentlemen, with me today, I have a various and a wonderful panel. Some of you, I think we are meeting for the first time. Bosco, I know we've met before, but happy to have you here with us. We have Fanya Mambo Kinuthia, who is to my very near right, a political analyst. And of course, also we have Benji Ndolo, who is also a political analyst, and Bosco Kiora, who is a political and governance analyst. Gentlemen, I'm happy to have you with us today. I know before we began, there was a bit of a discussion on some of the developments from today's CMC meeting, but I just want to hear from you as we just kick off the discussion. Your thoughts on some of the issues you're seeing happening in the ODM party, disagreements, of course, on the broad-based government arrangement, some of them opposed to the arrangement, other party members seemingly supporting the arrangement. Let's begin with you, Fanya Mambo.
Thank you. I think ODM party is where William Ruto would have wanted it to be. Scattered in disarray, unaware of where they are going, and split, of course, right through the middle, because then it was the strongest party in the country, and he would have wanted the only strong party in the party to be his political party, UDA. So ODM is now split right through the middle. There's no lying about it. The ones who were absent do not agree with the idea of joining William Ruto's government. The ones who were present actually feel very comfortable with merging ODM with UDA. I have a feeling that we shall be... Remember, there was a time when there was New Kanu, when there was something called merger, when, you know, New Kanu joined with the then LDP, I think, and Raila Amolo Odinga became the Minister for Energy. This is what we are looking at. We are looking at a situation where even more people could come into government. I see, although we shall be discussing Owalo, his exit, is also creating space for someone who is within ODM to join government. So from where I sit, ODM is about to become part and parcel of this broad-based government.
Of course, some argue that the split is not yet evident because there's not yet a formal process initiated yet, or rather put into place for the broad-based government arrangement to be said, you know, this is now where ODM is headed. Of course, the split for some is not yet evident. Some say it's a speculation. I hear you talking about a split, but I just want to hear from you, Benji, your thoughts about ODM state at this moment.
My thoughts are, first of all, Happy New Year. Leah, thanks for having us. My thoughts are, if I might say so myself, very philosophical. And I say that because the problem in this country is very clear. People say all the time we have a problem of corruption, of ignorance, of bad governance. It really all starts with the lack of purely ideological politics. And I say this because I actually took the time some few years back to sit down and come up with the idea of a purely ideological political party. And why I say that is because a purely political, ideological party, it insulates members and those who support it from a lot of what Fanya Mambo is talking about, political games. You can imagine New Kanu. Are you kidding me? LDP, merger, cooperation, broad-based, etc. It's just unfortunate in the sense that, in a way, when you look at it, you can see that many a time when you see people hopping around the place, they don't really believe in anything. And so ODM has been the biggest party. It has tried to have some ideology. But ODM has also been fraught with problems. Problems of corruption, problems of nepotism, problems of incompetence, problems of just disillusionment where you're dealing with, for instance, electoral fraud, and its party leader, the late Raila, never really, after talking about Canaan, never really got there. So with that kind of background, you can just imagine the disappointment and disillusionment on the part of supporters. Finally, let me just say that Sifuna, because I know Sifuna must be talked about, Edwin, the SG, clearly he's very stubborn and perhaps ideological, maybe even principled, because he believes in something and takes a strong stand. What a lot of people are maybe struggling to see or understand is the end game. Because, you know, once you've made the point is made. Now what? Then why are you still there as SG? So these are the complications that come with bad political manners, corruption, lack of political hygiene, where people can be in opposition and also inside government. It baffles the mind.
And as I listen to you, Benji, talking about the fact
baffling.
that if then he's opposed to the broad-based government, then why is he still holding the position of Secretary General? Maybe perhaps he's hoping that, you know, the party members would have actually changed their mind and said, hey, let's just go as a coalition or as a party running independently, not having any coalition. I mean, it feels like ODM has had possibilities of routes it could actually take that could maybe maintain some of the party members. But Bosco, Kiora, what are your thoughts about what Benji is saying?
Thank you very much. I want to say, for me, ODM is at a defining moment. It's nothing that different from what we expected. Raila Odinga was ODM and ODM was Raila Odinga. It's a transition period post Raila Odinga. So the party members, some are struggling for survival, and someone who is drowning can even cling to a crocodile. And you can see the movement. ODM, it is not, you cannot say it's split. It was split a long time, the day Raila Odinga left ODM. So the kind of things we are seeing ODM doing right now, we had anticipated. Like previously, people like Sifuna, Babu Owino, no one can chase them from ODM, but the leadership of ODM might want to push them until they get out. Because when they call for an NDC, we might have an NDC, which is already has delegates who are well planned to elect the leaders that they want, because ODM was left by Raila Odinga in broad-based government. So it is for Sifuna and the other rebels in ODM, more or less to call them, to forge their own ways, just like any other orphan in ODM. ODM has several orphans. People have been riding on Baba, because Baba in some regions and most of the positions where ODM was strong, it only took the hand of Baba to raise and say, this is the person, and you automatically get into parliament. So what we are seeing is not the odd from what we expected. The leaders have to fight for themselves. It's like a big tree that has fallen and the birds have to find their way. Or a widow who has been left, and the succession has to be done. And Raila Odinga, give him credit for what he has done so far, but I don't think the succession plan was very well done. Raila Odinga himself, the death of Raila Odinga was a surprise for many, and so I don't think there was a well-prepared succession plan for ODM as a party. So ODM will remain largely in broad-based government, and from what we have seen today in the meeting, they are planning about rejuvenating the party. The only thing that ODM right now should do and can do to pick, different from what my colleague is saying, not to be like New Kano, if ODM allows itself to have a fresh blood, young people, the Gen Zs, be put in critical positions, because if they are not necessarily Gen Z, the young, vibrant people, to be in leadership positions that matter in ODM are not necessarily to be put in a corner of youth league that is going to help ODM. Another thing as I finish, a political party cannot be very relevant if it doesn't have a presidential candidate. So maybe that's why we are seeing the plan to have a presidential candidate in 2027. Otherwise, as it is, ODM is going to, if it's not careful, it may not have a very formidable force in 2027. But if they craft another new ODM, and the likes of the rebels who are there, they left long time ago. So they are not leaving. They have already left because they know the plan. They can read the signs. Whatever that will be done during the NDC, it's a done case.
You know, as you talk about some of them, like you say, if the rebels feel that they're not happy with the decision from the CMC meeting, yes, then they can as well leave the party. But I tend to ask this question. ODM was built over decades of, you know, opposition politics. That's been the identity. Yes. And now as the Central Management Committee gives party leader Oburu Oginga the green light to go ahead and consider the merger, or rather start negotiations with President William Ruto's UDA party, what does that mean for ODM's identity and perhaps also the future of what ODM could become, Fanyamambo?
I think you see ODM and UDA are in government today. They are in bed together, if you would so put it. They have done so well in this country. University funding model is working, SHA is working, capitation to school is working. There is no insecurity in Kenya. You can actually speak on your phone here at midnight anywhere you want. We actually have excess policemen. That's why we are sending others to Haiti. These people have done extremely well. You know, farmers are happy, the country is doing well, everybody has got money in their pocket, the cost of fuel has gone down. The only thing remaining for them is to discuss a merger and how they are going to form government in 2027. This is how you know madmen when you see them. Because how do you come and tell us that you have achieved everything that you people were elected to achieve for the country, and the only thing that you are filling primetime news with is ideas of how you are going to merge and form the next government? This is insensitive of these leaders. When you wake up in the morning and parents have a confusion about schools, you wake up in the morning and we don't know what is grade 10. We don't have teachers for grade 10. University lecturers have just come from a strike. There is too much, there is too many things that need to be done by the leaders who are occupying positions of leadership, other than going to Mombasa and coming to tell us that they have decided to marry even deeper and produce more children who are also vagabonds who produce nothing for this country and do nothing for us other than just disturb us with noise on national TV. I think we elected people who are insane to most of these positions of leadership, because only insane and insensitive people would be sitting in Mombasa to discuss how, look, we lost Gen Zs in this country. They have forgotten. Compensation was forgotten. Finding justice for them was forgotten. No single policeman has been arrested. Nobody has been put to jail for the loss of these young people. And now they are telling us that the most important conversation we need to have as a nation is how one wheelbarrow will have an orange being carried on the wheelbarrow and they are going to Singapore together with something that doesn't use fuel. I don't know how they will get there. I think from where I sit, we need prayers. We need something that can help these people to start thinking and seeing where we are. Children are finished Form 4. I said we want to challenge them to tell us. Give us a list of the children who were put, for example, in Alliance High School. Give us a list of the children who went to Mango High School. Those people who have been shouting the loudest in support of this government, you realize that probably they are skewed. Those opportunities are skewed against, for example, children from Nyanza, from Western.
You know, Fanyamambo, even as you talk about the key issues, you're talking about education, the state of the economy,
yes,
the state of the nation.
Yeah.
And I think, and I believe, in any country, the opposition's voice is the one that comes to question some of the things you're mentioning. What would you say about the opposition's voice in the country? Given now we're talking about ODM now starting negotiations with UDA.
Yeah.
And of course, we have the DCP party that's been very vocal, seemingly appearing to be an opposing voice to the government. What is the strength of the opposition right now to be able to speak into some of the issues you're mentioning?
Actually, the opposition is very strong. Unfortunately, this government is even stronger in their love for, you know, sometimes People, you see people sink low. You think there is no lower than that. UDA and ODM surprise you. They sink even lower. They have such incredible depths for bad things that sometimes you sit and ask yourself, how did they get that low and how do we reach them that low? So, and every other day, there's something new, terrible that they are doing. In fact, we barely ever hear something new that is good that they've done. So you're reacting to this, you're reacting to this, the opposition is even tired. It's very hard to keep this government on toes. I think we need like at least 1 million people in the opposition actively involved in fighting the evils that this government is doing, because they appear to have a factory that only manufactures bad ideas for governance. And those are the only things they are bringing to Kenyans. And so every other day, the opposition is actively involved. It's not that we have a weak opposition. We have a government that is very strong and very clever in coming up with terrible ideas, that we cannot match the speed at which they are producing terrible ideas for us to fight them as opposition.
Benji, considering that ODM has developed its identity over the decades, this question posing as well, I'd pose it to Fanya Mambo. What are your thoughts about what is likely to become the identity of ODM? If this particular development we've seen today of the CMC meeting giving a green light to the party leader to start negotiations with President William Ruto's UDA party, what does that portend for ODM's identity in the coming days? Will we have an ODM, like the ODM we've known in previous years?
Sad to say, and I'll give you a straight answer, Leah, sad to say that ODM will distinguish itself not just as an opposition party unable to wield power, but ODM's problems began in 2007. They intensified 10 years later in 2017, and I'll demonstrate how. Because ODM initially founded. First of all, let's take a few steps back with my brothers here, my fellow analysts. You know, in Kenya, we never question things deeper. Do we even know why the ODM was called the Orange Democratic Movement? It was from the Yushchenko revolution of Ukraine, the Orange Revolution that worked. So around that time, Raila, who was very quick and very, you know how Raila was, very restless, he then quickly took that to form a political party. And then the government side took a fruit and they said, which fruit can we take? They took banana. And so the Orange Revolution is what Raila hoped would sweep the government like a tsunami to the Indian Ocean, which initially he did in the 2005 referendum, where they defeated the government of President Kibaki, and President Kibaki was forced to dissolve the entire government and to start afresh. And he did that very grudgingly. From then on, 2007 happened, they were denied victory. And Leah, why I talk about distinguishing itself as really, I don't want to call it a loser party, but a party that cannot assert itself and that always has to play second fiddle or go through the back door. It's because after the 2017 election, an election a decade later, Raila then was forced into a controversial handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta. That handshake benefited the president because Uhuru then needed legitimacy. There were a lot of issues around that, baby Pendo, etc. We all know the history. And now it then kind of became a habit and a culture. And that's why, again, you see the late Raila was very careful when handling handshake issues, because they were also speculated to be hand check, all right? And so the party, to your question, is going to be a party that, in a sense, is an organization that the establishment can use as a footstool, as a stepping stone, but one that itself has been unable to reach Canaan. Now, there are those minds in there that say, wait a minute, guys, you know, the Orengos, the Sifunas, I mean, they're there. They might not be the majority, but they're there. I think Raila's daughter, Winnie, etc. They're trying to look at what was the initial objective of Mzee and of this party. But, you know, sometimes, Leah, in politics, the numbers, the minority have a say, but the majority have their way. And so majority of those in ODM, they're willing to, you know, work with William Ruto. William Ruto himself was a founding member of ODM. So it gets murky, it gets convoluted. And that's why at the beginning of this conversation, I talked about pure ideological politics so that you avoid a lot of pitfalls. It's a sad thing when you see, for instance, what happened with FORD, the Forum for Restoration of Democracy, in the early 90s, actually at the advent of the 90s, in 1990, where FORD was a strong outfit under Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Raila's father. And then with time it got infiltrated, and then there was FORD Asili with Kenneth Matiba, who was also a strong contender, and FORD Kenya. And this history is important for Gen Zs to understand because they weren't around, they're very energetic, even boisterous, they want to understand, and they have strong opinions. You saw what happened in 2024. But then again, you need history to inform you of facts so that you can think through your strategy and through your objectives from an informed standpoint rather than from guesswork. And so this is a sad story of ODM. I can see you had an image there earlier where the chungwa is split. I've seen an image before where the chungwa became a lemon even before Raila's demise. Lots of lessons for those of us in political strategy and political science to take from this kinds of stuff. Yeah.
All right. We'll just take a short break. I'll come back to you, Bosco Kiora, because even as you talk about this, giving a bit of history, which is very interesting on the evolution of some of these parties that were infiltrated and they morphed into something else. And we're talking about the identity of ODM.
You lose your identity sometimes.
And what that will mean for the politics of the day and, of course, the 2027 general election. I want us to take a short break. When we return, we'll take up this discussion a bit further, just a look into ODM Wrangles and, of course, what it means for the broad-based government to go forth. So stay tuned. Don't go too far.